If you discovered a magical fishing pole and it caused the ice shelf you were on to break and sent you adrift into the frigid sea, what would you do? In this video, we're going to be playing Rimworld on the dreaded sea ice, a snowy wasteland where nothing grows and few animals roam. Usually, the only type of people that survive up here are ambitious. But what if I told you there was another way? Say hello to Icecubone, a brave, super immune fisherman who is stranded on an iceberg in the northern sea. He's starting with practically nothing, but as luck would have it, he now possesses a mysterious fishing pole, one that catches everything except for fish. Can we endure against the relentless cold, or will we fail and become just another frozen chunk of ice? Oh, and before we begin, this video was inspired by Ambiguous Amphibians' Sea Ice series. It's one of my favorite Rimworld playthroughs, and it's the same series that inspired me to begin creating content here on YouTube. I've added a link below in case you want to check it out for yourselves. Lastly, if you want to skip the story in the beginning and get right into the challenge, then go ahead and jump to the timestamp on the screen now. Don't worry, I won't be offended. No, not at all. With that said, let's begin. In the blistering cold of the North Pole, few tribes survive, and fewer still are the individuals who can carve out an existence on their own. But that's exactly what Icecubone here has been doing. He has been living alone, sustaining himself on the gold of the frozen water. Fish. Bountiful, delicious fish. Since most tribes up north are bloodthirsty cannibals or advanced societies with indoor greenhouses, he never truly found a home. The village he was raised in was in the tundra farther south, and only over the past few years had he continued migrating north until he found a comfortable spot where the fish were plenty and the people were scarce. He left his tribe after his wife of 20 years had abandoned him for a younger warrior. Though he was outraged, he found it hard to blame her. His prime was far behind him now, and he hadn't been able to give her the children she desired. Perhaps in time he'd find it within himself to forgive her, or forgive himself. However, it wasn't until yesterday that his years of sulking vanished in an instant. He went out to do some scouting for a new fishing spot when he found a fresh patch of ice he hadn't seen before. The odd part was, it wasn't a recently frozen section of the sea. This area seemed to have been there for years. That's when he noticed a peculiar shape jutting from the snow. At first, he thought it was a tree sapling, but when he finally reached it, he learned that it was even more bizarre than that. It was a fishing pole, similar to the one he used. In fact, it had all the same distinguishing features of his pole too. The many-notched handle which he carved whenever he made a record-breaking catch, the tan and brown stains from years of wear, even the small smiley face he carved into it as a kid at the bottom of the pole. Everything was the exact same, but there was one thing that separated this pole from his own. It had a strange aura around it, like some highly transparent blanket. When he reached his hand into that mystical aura, a tingling surge rushed throughout his body. Eventually, he did force himself past that outer layer, and he grabbed hold of the fishing pole. It took a forceful tug to pry it free, but once he did, the ice beneath him crackled to life, and the ground shook violently. He tried to move back in the direction of his camp, but his body couldn't maneuver under the relentless quaking, and he was forced to kneel down and wait. An ear-splitting crack rang out over the icy wastes. The ocean splashed angrily around him. He could see small waves pouring over the nearest edges, but thankfully he was far enough away to avoid getting swept into the sea. A minute later, it was quiet again, with only choppy waves providing white noise in the background. Icecubone stood on shaky legs and looked in all directions. The ice shelf he was standing on had broken completely off from the mainland and was now about 100 yards from the nearest shoreline. There was one main problem. Icecubone could barely swim. He had never really learned to in his youth, and even as an adult, he was hardly able to tread water, and that was with all of his clothes off. He knew if he were to dive in now, the frigid water would claim him before he even got halfway to shore. What was worse, every passing second, he could feel the ice beneath him drifting further into sea. There was no mistaking it. He was standing on an iceberg now. Then, he felt a strange warmth emitting from the mysterious fishing pole still in his hand. It was heating the inside of his body, like he had just drank a hot bowl of soup. He wasn't sure how, but he knew the pole was responsible for this entire mess. Or maybe it was just the gods punishing him for being such a coward when his wife had left him. Was he really that weak? He gave the pole a determined squeeze and squinted away the heartache coursing through his chest. And like magic, a solution popped into his mind. He could fish. Yes, that was the answer to his dilemma. The ocean provided him with everything he needed, even things he could never imagine. He didn't need his tent or any of the comforts of his former life. This would be his home now, and he would have everything he could ever want. For as long as he could fish, he could hope. Here our journey begins. We're stranded on an iceberg with practically nothing. All we have is the clothes on our back, some melee weapons, and a little bit of pemmican. There's a snow hare and an Arctic wolf, two unfortunate beasts that are stuck adrift with us. Other than that, there's only vast emptiness and frigid water. Now, let's take a moment to focus on our brave protagonist, Icecubone. That way you can appreciate him even more as a person. He's a super immune fisherman, so he gets a mood bonus whenever he's fishing. And the only thing he won't be catching is a cold. He does have some negative traits. He's a bit of a slob, but that's okay, because he's also a recluse, so there's no one to impress. Since he's an older guy, most of his baseline stats are average. He has a burning passion for melee combat, some construction and plant skill, which might be useful later. He's a natural with animals, and he's got some interest in learning. We'll start off by laying down some stockpile zones, a fishing zone, and we'll begin the hauling. Already we need to defend ourselves against the brutal nature, as the snow hare is going for our pemmican. This is not acceptable. We'll try to attack the hare while it's eating, and now they just keep missing each other. It is a smaller target, so I guess it makes a little bit of sense. And there we go. The vicious hare has been defeated. Great, we avoided any injuries and earned ourselves another meal. Luckily, we started in August, so it's a balmy 29 degrees Fahrenheit out. Our current gear grants us great protection down to -1 degrees, but that temperature will drastically drop as the weeks go on. We'll need to find a source of warmth or some way to build a shelter. There are several ice chunks lying around that could be carved into blocks, but we lack the knowledge to craft those yet. There he goes. Icecubone is casting his line out for the first time with the magical fishing pole. What a monumental moment. This process does take some time, so while we wait for that, let's talk for a moment about what makes this scenario so interesting. Normally, sea ice challenges are played with pawns who are cannibals, and rightfully so. There's rarely anything to eat up here, and eventually, the only thing you can eat are the people that wander in. But what if you're not a cannibal? What if you found another way? Enter ice fishing, a fantastic way to pass time and feed yourself. You could fish like normal and catch all the food you want, but I think that makes this a little too easy. So instead, we have a mysterious pole, one that catches items 100% of the time. But catching items all the time doesn't make this playthrough any easier. In fact, I assert that this challenge is in some ways harder than the standard one, and here's why. The items we catch can range from incredibly valuable to completely useless, and everything in between. Some items are cool to have, but they can shoot your wealth up in a hurry, and bring unwanted attention from raiders before you're ready. Besides that, there's nothing to do with most of the items you catch. You can't swim across the ocean to sell them, so unless one of those rare seafaring traders wanders in, you're pretty much stuck with expensive junk. There's also one thing that you shouldn't underestimate: time. Much like in real life, fishing takes a considerable amount of it, for what sometimes results in a useless item. But hey, let's be honest, do you have anything else better to do out here? But speaking of items, here's Icecubone about to catch his very first one. Let's go see what it is. And right on cue, the very first item we catch is completely useless. It's a newspaper, suspiciously titled Normal. We'll let Icecubone catch up on the local seafaring news, and then we'll just set it down and let it deteriorate. The next catch is much better. We got some wood. We need a few more of those and then we can start making a shelter. Our three priorities are shelter, food, and defense, and only the fishing gods control that. We're unfortunately going to have to sleep in the cold tonight, and probably the next few nights too. Our clothes will keep the cold at bay, but they're not in the best condition. It's our first cast of the morning, and we caught ourselves some pemmican. Great, breakfast. And we had a great day of fishing. We caught ourselves some devil strand cloth, gold bars, and even more food, including chocolate. I'm most excited about the canned meat from an unknown creature. Can't wait to see what that tastes like. Now nearing the end of the third day, the Arctic wolf is hunting us for food. Come on, Icecubone, show everyone how brave you really are. Oh boy, this is not going as well as I would hope. Alright, we have shattered our nose, and our right arm has got some bad bites. And there, it's done. Yeah, man, that was like that movie. What was it called? The Gray? With Liam Neeson. Remember that? Where he fights the wolves? It bit off our left second toe. We are now missing a toe. Our nose has been just chewed up and shattered, and our right arm is just bleeding from severe bites. It's a good thing we just caught that medicine too, otherwise this would be even worse. And somehow, despite us being on an iceberg, we have a visitor, a translator from a group called the Slicers. His name is Rad Ratty Amethyst. That's a pretty great name. I wonder if he's here to rescue us. He's an anxious, coward, delicate wimp. Wow, he is a genie, so some of those are just innate traits. And most importantly, he is a fisherman, so that one trait there offsets all the other ones in my book. I wish there was a way to bring Ratty into the group, but there's just no way for us to do that. They don't seem too interested in talking, so I guess we won't be getting help. But somehow, some way, there are those who are able to travel to this iceberg, and that brings us some hope. Day 4 has been a really good day for fishing. We caught some steel, components, a light SMG, and also this healer mech serum. It's pretty cool. Icecubone could technically use this now to fix either his nose or his missing toe, but I think we'll hang on to it for now. It might fetch a high price with any traders who pass by. And thanks to these recent catches, especially the serum, our wealth has shot up dramatically. And as a result, we're attracting some unwanted attention, like this raider from the Blight Wasters, Teddy Gamble, a couch potato genie. Wow, they're actually pretty good. If we were further along, I would definitely try to capture him, just for their intellectual stat alone. Now we are exposed out here quite a bit. There's really nothing we can take cover behind except maybe a few ice chunks, but even that's not much. We're going to have to surprise attack them. Well, as much as you can surprise someone out here. We need to close the distance as quickly as possible. We'll sneak up here as much as we can and wait for them to start crossing the water. And now's our chance. Charge, Icecubone. Charge like your life depends on it, man. Okay, he did turn. He is going north now. Was not expecting that. Well, we're too committed at this point. We'll just keep charging. He's going to hide behind some ice chunks. Oh, we got hit. It's a melee fight now. We hold the clear advantage here. At least, I thought we did. And finally, he's down. That guy was a lot tougher than I expected. Icecubone has certainly had better days. He's been shot, and his ribs and left tibia are both cracked. He's really just in a world of pain at the moment. And there goes Gamble. He's starting to crawl away. It's always so funny watching them crawl. Maybe we'll let him go. Actually, never mind. He has some really good gear. That spider silk parka sounds really cozy, actually. So we'll take that. We'll go ahead and strip you. You won't be needing these anymore. Hey, another visitor. Matronleo Llama of the Bani Coalition. Or is it Bani? I guess it would be Bani. The Bani Coalition. Hello, friend. Nah, don't worry about that guy. He was just leaving. Wow, this mech serum is actually worth 737 silver. I think for now we'll just trade him some of our garbage, and we'll buy all of their pemmican. We're going to need as much as that as we can get. Wonderful. Pleasure doing business with you, good sir. Oh, and there goes Gamble, and they're dead. Well, that takes care of that then. And a wanderer wants to join. A corporate spy named Flossie wants to join your colony. But we'll decide her fate in the next episode. I'm really liking this challenge so far, and I hope you are too. I want to wish a happy holidays to all of you wonderful people out there. You are the magic that powers my fishing pole. For now, I'm Lore Harbor, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.